All right, here we go. Salute to NBA Nation on this Monday afternoon. It's another edition of the NBA Report. On today's show, free agency is just around the corner, man. We're going to talk about our top 10 free agent guards and wings, plus the Minnesota Timberwolves making moves over the weekend, signing Naz Reid to a 3-year, $42 million deal. We're going to talk about that with our friend John Krasinski, who covers the Timberwolves for The Athletic, plus the Suns keeping Deandre Ayton. We're going to react to that news and what that means for the Suns offseason as well. And Victor Wembanyama skipping the FIBA World Cup. We're going to get into all of that. So lock in, hit that like button, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Subscribe to the channel and share this video. Another edition of the NBA Report. CP the franchise here. Alex Rotaros on the other side. John Krasinski, who covers the Minnesota Timberwolves for The Athletic, is here. John, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, CP. Good to be back. How are you?
Absolutely, man. Great to have you back on. Doing well here. And as we approach free agency, which kicks off this Friday, June 30th, one name that a lot of teams, a lot of fans were looking at that had, really admired based on his growth this year, it was one Naz Reid. But the Minnesota Timberwolves decided to act fast and sign Reid to a 3-year, $42 million deal. So tell us how all this transpired.
Yeah, CP, it was kind of a really the culmination of a year-long kind of negotiation between Naz Reid and the Timberwolves. They, obviously have Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns in front of Naz in the front court rotation. And so I do know that there were several teams out there in the league that were believing that they would at least get a chance to talk to Naz Reid in free agency, to pitch him on either more money than the Wolves could offer or a bigger role right away with maybe a starting spot, or certainly bigger minutes than maybe might be built into what he has in Minnesota. And really what it came down to was the Timberwolves looked at Naz Reid and said, this is one of the great player development stories that this franchise has ever had, going from an undrafted rookie free agent to a critical piece of their rotation. And he's a fan favorite. The players love him. The coaches love him. And so they really just felt like they wanted to be aggressive and get a deal done and avoid having to compete with other teams in free agency. So I think they went a little bit above what they planned on spending on Naz Reid, but all in all, they feel really good about being able to keep a guy who's been here for 4 years, great worker, great part of this organization, and really, really skilled. He's gotten better and better every single year. And so, yeah, I'm sure there are a few teams out there that are a little disappointed right now that they can't go after Naz Reid.
And so with Naz Reid's re-signing, what do you think were his biggest improvements for the Timberwolves to keep him around?
Yeah, it's a couple of things with him. I mean, one is he has gradually developed a handle that is really among the best of any big man in the league, starter or bench. I mean, he can break a guy down on the perimeter and get past him and throw down some explosive dunks. He's really reshaped his body since coming into the league. He's lost over 30 pounds, really turned himself into a kind of a lean and mean machine that way. And so he is much more athletic, much more explosive than he was when he first came into the league. And that has helped him to be able to play both small ball center and power forward, which is obviously a huge thing for the Timberwolves, because if he could only play center, the odds that they would want to spend this kind of money on a backup 5 when you already have Towns and Gobert, pretty minimal. But because he showed last year that he has the versatility to play some 4 along with the 5, I think that he showed that he has more value to the franchise than just being a backup 5. And so I think that, just coupled with his overall attitude and work ethic and kind of commitment, it was a player that they thought that they really wanted to keep around, and they wanted to show the rest of the team and the league that, hey, we reward players for putting in the hard work and becoming really good players in this league. And Naz Reid has done that.
And certainly has. And as you said, the growth and development was one that the entire organization took stock in, from the ownership on down to the general manager and to the coach. Where do you see the areas of improvement where Naz Reid needs to improve his game? I mean, now he's going to be earning a lot more, so the expectations are certainly going to be higher.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good story when he's on a minimum deal and producing the way that he was. Very much kind of low pressure situation. Now that he is making money, there are going to be more expectations on him, and he is going to have to play. There were times last year where maybe they just stuck more with Towns and Gobert and kind of pushed Reid into a very minimal role at times. That's not going to be the case now that you're spending this kind of money on him. And so what they need from Reid is they need a little more consistent rebounding. There will be games where he piles up a bunch of boards, but really he played 68 games last year. Only 4 times was he in double digits in rebounds. They want him to be more of a factor on the glass. Secondly, he fouls a little too much. And so on defense, being able to stay in front of guys and not get bullied by bigger centers or not get beaten to a spot by quicker power forwards and forced to foul them and put the team in disadvantageous positions. That's going to be another point of emphasis for Naz. They would also like if he could tick up the 3-point shooting just a little bit more. I think he's at around 34%. Last season, that could get up to 35, 36%. Then it becomes even more of a weapon. So there are areas that they want him to improve, but they really do believe in his work ethic. He's taken leaps every single summer. He stays in Minnesota for most of the year, working out and doing those things. And so they're pretty confident that he's going to keep rolling.
How significant do you think his loss, or his non-presence in the playoffs was against the Nuggets?
Yeah, it's a good point, Alex. I mean, they definitely did miss him and Jaden McDaniels in the playoffs. They lose to the Nuggets in 5 games. There was a real belief that Naz Reid was a matchup nightmare for the Nuggets with that second unit. Whenever Jokic would go out and the Wolves would play the Nuggets with Naz Reid, they crushed Denver in the non-Jokic minutes. That did not happen in this playoff series because they did not have the same kind of energy and juice coming off of the bench to really kind of tip the scales in their favor. Even though Jokic was playing a lot of minutes, they still needed to win them and win them in a big margin to have a chance in that series, and they just didn't. And so having Naz Reid would have helped that a great deal. Now the big question becomes, how do they make all of this work financially with Naz, with Rudy Gobert making $41 million next year, with Cat making $36 million next year? There's a lot of money invested in that front court, and we'll have to see if they can keep those 3 together or if they're going to eventually have to make a move with one of those guys.
Well, once again, we're talking to John Krasinski, who covers the Minnesota Timberwolves for The Athletic. And John, that's the next question I have here is because based on your article, it seems like there was certainly a sense of urgency here for the Minnesota Timberwolves to sign Naz Reid. It's a pretty significant deal. People like myself, I thought he was going to be around that $12 million mid-level exception, but they certainly upped the ante a little bit there, plus a third-year player option, so he has some flexibility there as well. But with that's $440+ million invested in your front court. I mean, unless Naz Reid is going to play some at the 3, as you said, he's going to have to play. But then if they have to sign Edwards and they have to sign McDaniels, where does that leave Towns, Gobert? I mean, what do you think the future holds for those guys?
Yeah, it's about to get really interesting here. And essentially, they have one more season to figure this all out. The new collective bargaining agreement with its much more stringent penalties on big spenders, on luxury tax spenders, doesn't kick in until 2024, 2025. And that is also when Karl Anthony Towns' big extension kicks in. It's also when any extensions due to Ant and McDaniels that might come this summer will kick in. And so they have just a little bit of breathing room over the next calendar year to really figure that out. And they have said publicly that they want to start the season running it back with the core that they had last season. And because Towns missed 52 games, Rudy missed some time, they want to see this team together, fully healthy, before they make any really big and drastic changes to it. I still think that, is there a possibility sometime this summer another team makes a big offer for one of their guys and they say, okay, let's do it? I think there's a chance, because sooner or later they're going to have to pay the piper with all of this money that they are investing. They're going to go into the luxury tax. And I don't think any team wants to be there unless they are championship contenders. And so you would think that whether it's this summer, whether it's during the season before the trade deadline, or at the end of next season going into the draft time, they are going to have to make a decision on, do you keep Naz? Do you keep Rudy? Do you keep Cat? One of those three guys you would think would have to be dealt at least to sort of take some of the financial pressure off with some of the other big money that's going to be paid to a lot of young guys. So I don't think it's an immediate danger, but it's certainly something that is right on their minds and that they are weighing as they go forward here.
But John, do you think that's a wise investment for the Timberwolves right now, where you see the offseason right now where you have CP3 going to the Warriors? You see how the Phoenix Suns got Bradley Beal. Do you think it's right for the Timberwolves just to run it back, or should they just try to strike now and just try to clean the books, because it may be even more difficult to move Karl Anthony Towns down the line, considering, and also you got to have it into consideration that the Wolves did play better while he was out to some degree.
Well, so yeah, I would say this. I think that it all depends on what their options are in terms of, let's just say for instance that they have decided, which I don't believe they have, but let's just say for the sake of argument, they decide, you know what, we do have to move Karl Anthony Towns now. Like it's time to move on. It's time to get what we can get for him, and then move forward with more of an Anthony Edwards centric team. Well, there's making that decision, but then there's also making sure that you recoup the good value for your investment. And if there is not a scenario out there right now where a team wants to commit serious draft capital and maybe a good young player or two for Karl Anthony Towns, then I think your decision is made for you, and you just ride it out a little bit. And maybe as the season begins next year, Karl Anthony Towns is healthy, he plays a lot better, the team responds, then the value would come up for him. The value would also come up for Rudy Gobert, who, let's face it, is coming off of a very underwhelming season. Mm-hmm. And so he doesn't have a whole lot of trade value with his contract right now. And so in some ways, even if they wanted to make a move this summer, they may be dealing from a position of weakness a little bit in terms of the value of some of their guys. Now, what would be difficult for them, I think, is if a team came to them, maybe it's your Knicks, maybe it's Portland, maybe it's there's a bunch of teams out there that might come Dallas and say, hey, here is a really attractive offer for Towns, like, say no to me. That might be a different scenario, but I think that they do have some time to play this out a little bit longer if they want to start the season and see if maybe everything comes together much better than it did last year. Last year was so disjointed. Cat and Rudy both missed most of training camp. Then Towns goes down with the calf injury. Rudy was in and out just a little bit. They never seem to really have any extended time together. And so if you give them a little bit more time, maybe they'll end up looking great, be a challenge for a top 4 seed in the West, and then make it a lot easier for them to either trade Cat or Rudy, or maybe you can still, Naz Reid's contract is going to be very tradable. So that just gives them some more options than maybe it might look like they have right now.
What do you, just based on your opinion, where do things stand from a relationship standpoint with Towns and the organization? I mean, his name has come up in trade rumors all off season since it started, whether it's Portland to Dame, Cat to the Knicks is always strong. There's reports that he's buying real estate apartments in New York. So, the rumors are flying there. Based on your opinion, where do things stand with Cat and the organization?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, and I've had conversations with people on all sides of this. I think that Karl Anthony Towns would like to be here in Minnesota. He loves playing with Anthony Edwards. He has a really good relationship with Rudy Gobert. He has good relationships with a lot of the players on the team, and he has a lot of respect for Chris Finch as a head coach. And so I know that there's always been, really over the last maybe 3 to 4 years, I think there's been a collective wondering, when would Karl Anthony Towns look at what's been around him in Minnesota and say, you know what, this isn't it. I need to go somewhere else. We've seen a ton of stars make those kinds of declarations and try and force their issue on the way out. So far here, there's been no indication of that. Towns wants to make it work in Minnesota. He wants to be here for the long term. And so I don't think that there's any strains or anything with that. I think the biggest key to that is that he and Edwards get along very, very well. And, there's always this conversation of, well, whose team is it? And who's, can they share the spotlight? I do think that they can both coexist together very, very well. So to me, the question becomes for the Timberwolves is not, hey, do we want Karl Anthony Towns here? Do we want to have a long-term relationship with him and keep him around from a basketball standpoint? It's purely, can they afford to financially? And that's a decision that they will have to make ultimately. And so if something were to happen short-term, long-term with Towns or with Rudy Gobert, I do believe that it would be just them realizing, look, we've got to change the financial picture of this team to meet it. And it would be less about personalities or basketball fits or anything like that.
Now, John, the Timberwolves do have two rookies that they got from the draft this year. One being Leonard Miller. The other is Jalen Clark. What are your thoughts about these two prospects right here for the Timberwolves?
Yeah, so one of the side effects of the Rudy Gobert trade that they made last year is that they did not have a first round pick this summer in the draft. And so they went into the draft with 1 second round pick, number 53, very low. And so they went and traded 2 future seconds to go up to 33 and get Leonard Miller, who they really, really like. They think that, he's a big dude, 6'10", super athletic, really good hard-nosed rebounder, the kind of body type that this roster lacks. They want more explosion with their bigs. They want more size and wingspan and muscle. And Leonard Miller has that. And so he was really impressive over the second half of of last season's G League season with G League Unite. And there were plenty of people. Sam Vecini from The Athletic had him 13th on his board. And so I think there's a lot of optimism that in a year or two, Miller can really develop into a good, strong rotational piece for them and give them a dimension that they don't have athletically. And then with Jalen Clark, number 53, that was purely a value play there because Clark blew out his Achilles in March and is recovering from surgery there. And so they're going to be very patient with him and may, how much he plays this upcoming season is yet to be determined, but it may not be very much. But when healthy, they think that he is a first round talent and he's got, he's one of the best defensive prospects in the draft. He was an Ace Best Defensive Player of the Year, a great perimeter defender. And so getting him into the team's program, helping him rehab that Achilles, and then maybe in a year, he will be ready to help out. It seems like it made a lot of sense to take a chance on him there because he is so talented. It's just about getting him back healthy again.
Once again, we're talking to John Krasinski, Timberwolves insider for The Athletic. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Hit that like button. We are talking about the Timberwolves re-signing of Naz Reid and what the offseason looks like for this team. And John, from a salary cap standpoint, with them just having signed Naz Reid, where do they stand as free agency approaches on this Friday on the 30th? Is it just taxpayer mid-level plus vet minimums, or how do things look from a cap standpoint?
Yeah, they have a little bit of flexibility. They have Taurean Prince's contract is non-guaranteed for next year. I believe it has to be guaranteed by Thursday. So that is for $7.5 million. They could trade that and create some room that way and get another player back. They could waive him, create some more flexibility and cap space that way, or they could keep him because he's a good player that helps off the bench and is a nice leader in that locker room. So I think what they ultimately end up doing with him is going to dictate a lot of their spending power and their ability to make things happen on the free agent market. They have the potential of getting up close to $12 million, close to that mid-level exception in spending power. But you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's a restricted free agent. They would like to have him back. I think that they have looked at and are trying to consider some other possibilities, some other wing possibilities. But with signing Naz Reid, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to attract, a kind of top 7 guy to get in here. So it might be bring back Nickeil Alexander-Walker on a nice deal, and then look to see if there is another backup point guard to address that issue, because they have Mike Conley, really, really good starter, but they don't want to play him heavy minutes, and they need someone to help in that regard, because Jordan McLaughlin certainly slipped last season after having a calf injury himself. And so I think that's going to be the priority, but they are not one of those teams armed with a whole bunch of money to spend on the market. So they're going to have to go value shopping a little bit here.
We have a question from our Twitter user. The Cooler asks, is Josh Minott a player that could be available given that the Timberwolves did draft Leonard Miller?
Yeah, so Josh Minott is a second-round pick from last year from Memphis. He is not available as far as I know, unless it were to be like as a part of a package for a big deal for them to go get someone. They really like his potential. He is springy, athletic. Miller is more of a 4. I think Minott is more of a 3. And just kind of in terms of body type, but in terms of looking at their roster, whether Taurean Prince is here next year or not, they're going to need some more wings to kind of help fill in for them as this roster starts to turn over more and more. Austin Rivers is going to be out or maybe out, I guess, but there's a few other guys that they need some wing depth. And Josh Minott did not play much at all last year, played a lot of G League, but they are very excited about his potential. And so I think that he is, as a very affordable contract, which they need, I think they're going to hold on to him and hope that he kind of emerges this season as another rotation piece for them.
Interesting indeed, man. And final question for you, John. Definitely appreciate the time. There was a report by the New York Daily News that came out last week with obviously Zach Lavine, another guy whose name is coming up in the trade rumors, a former Timberwolves. There's a report by the New York Daily News that's saying that his representation with Klutch Sports is against a potential trade to the Knicks that is a CAA house. I mean, just want to get your thoughts on that. Obviously, you covered Lavine when he was with Tibbs and the Timberwolves. What's that relationship like, and what do you think about that report?
Yeah, the Palace intrigue with agencies and the way they sort of jockey for position around the league is fascinating. I certainly don't have any internal knowledge about what Klutch wants to do versus what, CA with Leon Rose's background there and all of that. But what I do say is that whatever kind of decisions or factors are kind of influencing the Knicks' decision and Zach Lavine's decision on where all that ends up, I don't think any of it is going to be adversely affected by the Tibbs-Lavine situation. Tibbs is notoriously demanding. He likes to get on players and push them and prod them, and some respond well and some don't. But Zach Lavine was always one who responded well to Tibbs. Zach Lavine is a worker, and he grew up with a very hard-nosed taskmaster father who really pushed him through a lot of his workouts and yelled and screamed and did all of those things to get him to the level that he is at right now. And so when Tibbs came to coach Zach, he was very comfortable and used to any kind of approach that way. And I know that I just remember one time after Zach was traded to Chicago, and we were talking to Tibbs about, Lavine. It might have been a game coming up against the Bulls, and hey, how's your relationship with Zach? And Tibbs said that, he and Zach still texted occasionally and kept in touch. And I asked Tibbs at the time, I'm like, can you yell at him via text? Kind of joking, and Tibbs laughed, and he doesn't laugh a lot. Yeah. So that kind of just shows that there is a really good relationship and a good mutual respect there. So if that were to happen, I think that you would see two guys who actually do really fit well in terms of the way they both approach the game and work hard and demand a lot of themselves and each other. So whether that ultimately means a marriage between the Knicks and Lavine, I don't know, but I do know that those two really got along in Minnesota side. I didn't mind pushing each other and sniping at each other a little bit. And so he would fit right in there from that culture standpoint.
Interesting indeed, man. Well, John, we'll have to see how the rest of the offseason plays out, but we definitely appreciate the time, and hopefully we can catch up in Vegas, man, for Summer League.
You got it. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you having me.
All right. Thanks again.
Have a good one, John.
That was John Krasinski, Timberwolves insider for The Athletic. Great guest, man. Always a great guest. Always gives us some valuable tidbits. Sharp mind as well. Make sure you guys are following him. We dropped his Twitter handle there on the screen while he was on, so make sure you guys catch up with John Krasinski. He has a pretty deep dive article on the whole Naz Reid acquisition, or extension rather, and the Timberwolves' approach to bringing Naz Reid back into the fold and rewarding him for a season of hard work. Great job by Naz Reid for getting the bag, Al. Naz Reid gets the bag, man. Gets the bag. Hang tight, Al. Let me get your screen up. Okay, here we go. There we go. Yeah. So, what'd you think about the Reid extension for the Wolves?
I mean, you got what, $443 million tied up at your center position?
That's a big ticket, man.
That is, and I have to cough because I just see that number. I get running it back like John said, but at the same time, that's just a lot of money amongst bigs, man. And
it's a big ticket.
I don't know how you go in there thinking how that's all going to be carved up. I mean, you'd have to expect that either these guys are going to miss some time again. What's the player development like? As John was talking about, the two draft picks too, having more size and athleticism in the bigs position. So where are all these minutes coming from? It'll be interesting, man. It'll be interesting to see what the Timberwolves to start off the season. I just feel like they're getting ready for a shakeup. I think internally they're getting ready for a shakeup just because you don't retain a player without the expectation that potentially there is a move down the line. I mean, if you're going to have three centers like that, granted, Naz could play power forward and center. It's more so the Towns aspect because he didn't look good at power forward for the Timberwolves. So if you theoretically have three centers, how are you going to get? It just comes back to how are you going to get all these guys minutes? Just an interesting sign. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of a head scratcher because yes, Reid filled a big role for them, and his game has certainly grown. No question about it. I just don't understand. First off, I go back to the Gobert trade. That one confused me because I just felt like all the draft capital that they spent to go get Gobert for a win now situation, they're not a win now team. And so all the draft capital that they gave up to go get Gobert, to me, should have been invested in drafting and player development and putting more of a supporting cast and more roster depth, more flexibility with that roster as Ant-Man continues to develop and mature. And as you go through with Cat, or maybe without Cat down the road, I just thought the Gobert situation was a panic move. It completely surprised me that despite having Gobert, Towns, and Reid, they were a pretty terrible rebounding team in the league. That one certainly shocked me. But, they're certainly playing the get the guy now, figure it out later. We'll see if that approach works. Now, with Reid being on a 2-year deal plus a player option, they have flexibility there. Maybe he leaves to go get an even bigger bag, or maybe they trade him. Maybe they trade Cat. So I don't necessarily think they are stuck, but they've certainly keep pushing pieces into the middle of the table, we'll have to see, man. Like I said, the success of this team overall is just going to continue to depend on Ant-Man's continued rise and how Cat and Gobert can coexist. But he is right. When you make these type of investments, you got to see them through. I said it all the time when it comes to the Knicks. You got to see these investments through, and then there will be a point where you reassess and you retool. So it doesn't seem like they're there just yet with Karl Anthony Towns, but we'll have to wait and see.
And the player that John was talking about, Leonard Miller, who they traded 2 future second rounders to go get at 33, right? It's not a late it's not a late first rounder, but it's not a late second round either. We're talking about what we consider, the late first round, right? So you're traded 2 future picks to go get him, who's 6'10". If you're gonna have Towns who can play the power forward, Naz Reid who can play a little bit of power forward, Gobert is strictly a center, where is Leonard Miller coming in? Because look, we see it throughout the entire NBA. Coaches stagger rotations. When Gobert's off, Towns could be on. When they're off, either Naz Reid could be on, or maybe Naz Reid's playing the 4, Cat's playing the 5, Gobert's playing the 5. Like, you just do all this mixing and matching. Now you throw Leonard Miller in there because you're not telling me you're traded 2 future second rounders to add somebody that you really liked in the deep draft to say we're going to just sit you on the bench and you're not going to get any playing time. You at least have to calculate 10 minutes minimum
Significant
to get some experience in there. So where is all this time coming? This Timberwolves team is just interesting because we talked about it on the Knicks where it's like, you got to consolidate this roster. When we had Cam Reddish and everybody, and it's like, you got to consolidate this roster. There's too many people that deserve minutes.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the same thing for the Wolves. And I just don't see how you can start off the season strong where everyone's fighting for minutes. The coach now has to decide who's earning the minutes. Practice only shows you so much. You have to see them play during a regular game because it's different. It's a different environment. So interesting for the Wolves, man.
Yeah.
That's it.
Interesting indeed, man. So to everybody in the chat, once again, let's get those likes up. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. The NBA report on the lunchtime check-in, man. Salute to all of our regulars in the chat. JJ from Brooklyn is in here. He's down bad, man. He was disappointed that the Knicks lost out on Naz Reid. But Naz Reid certainly got a bump higher than I thought. I was thinking, $12 million. Wolves went up, man. Wolves up the ante. They said 14 is where we're going. So great job by him. Who else we got in here? KG7 Full. What's good? Knicks Prime in the chat says T-Wolves fumbling their own bag. Salute. 3 bigs with money is not a good look. Knicks Prime. Salute to Diamonds Holdings. Diamonds, how you feeling? Jay from PR. Jay, how you feeling? Minnesota's a complete mess. Cat is the softest player of all time. EJ1. Well, his Cat's contract is supposed to go up to like $62 million by 2028. So I guess that's what he means by being a game changer. You know what I mean?
I guess so.
Yeah. Either way, man, on to the next topic. Deandre Ayton is going to be kept by the Phoenix Suns. According to Chris Haynes of Yahoo Sports, Phoenix Suns are moving forward with the plan to keep DeAndre Ayton to play alongside Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal. There was also a Suns sports radio announcer that kind of came out with that one first. I forgot his name. I think it's like John Gambadoro for Sun Sports Radio. Basically confirmed that as well. So no trade. A lot of people expected that to be the next domino after the Beal trade, to go out there and get depth. I think what it signaled is that they didn't get good offers. I think that's exactly what it meant. They did not get good offers for DeAndre Ayton. He's due $32 million next year. Having a lackluster playoff. Recency bias, I would have to think, plays into consideration. It's a hard trade to make for any team, especially with what the Suns are looking for. You're not just going to look to sell low on your number 1 pick and someone that you invested significant assets with. You want something that's going to get you a comparable return in terms of players, multiple players that can help push this thing forward. So I think they didn't get the deals that they were looking for. Maybe that changes at the deadline, or maybe next offseason that changes. But I think if they're going this route, it's probably better to keep him, see what he does with this team, and then reassess as time goes on, rather than just dump him, make a hasty decision just for some depth and going with that, because that might not bring you the returns that you're looking for. So, we'll see what happens when he's with this team. Obviously, they're going to need him less offensively, but he's got to do a lot more dirty work, more rim protection, more rebounding, more toughness. And we'll see. Maybe they stagger the lineups a little bit here and there where it's a positive asset and they're able to balance the productivity and the minutes of these four guys. But nevertheless, they're moving forward with D. Ayton, man. What's your thoughts on it?
I mean, when we were talking with David Aldridge, and he said he believed that they would flip him, like, why not just keep him if you believe that he's a top-tier talent? I mean, you spent the number 1 overall pick on this guy in the same draft as Luka Doncic, right? So you have to show that he's worth some sort of value to this league. And I think if you're selling low on this guy, then you're really doing the team injustice, even though you weren't the front office that drafted him. And he has that potential to be a good center, man. It's just the inconsistency, as you noted. I mean, we can go back to when they played the Milwaukee Bucks in the finals not too long ago. And yes, it's going against Giannis Antetokounmpo. You're not expecting a young guy like DeAndre Ayton in his 3rd season to really do anything to stop the MVP. But you're asking for is this guy, and apparently my cat wants to get part of this conversation.
Nice. All right.
You're asking for him just to show a little bit of life, a little bit of resistance, and you didn't even really get that from him against Giannis Antetokounmpo. So with Ayton, he has to show that he wants it. He's adaptable to any situation. I know him dropping down to now the 4th option is not what he was probably thinking when he was drafted as a number 1 overall guy, but still, if you're going to go make a living in this league, you have to show that you're not necessarily going to be the guy. You got to show that you can change how your play style is, be reliable, be dependable. I mean, for him not even to be playing in the playoffs, I know it's an injury, but still, you want some guys to show some level of grit to be there, right? And he wasn't. But the guy can play, man. I mean, when you look at his numbers, according to Clean the Glass, at where he ranks up, I mean, he's in the 91st percentile finishing around the rim. He finishes 79% of his shots, and that's 325 shots that he took around the rim. He's got a good short mid-range game. He's got a good long-range mid-range game. Like, he's in the top percentiles for all these things. If you look at Clean the Glass, you want to be in the orange category to show that he's, above average. And he is that. The question, the thought process is, can he do it on a consistent enough basis? So that's what you need from DeAndre Ayton. I'm kind of not surprised that the Suns are going to keep him and roll with the big 4 in this case, because why not? You're already going to be over the cap. I thought they might as well just do that. And then if it's not working out, then you got to reconsider, how do we get this guy out of here? But also at the price tag of, was it 30 some odd million?
32.
Annually, they just get
32.
32. I mean, who's going to be paying a center 32 million not to be that guy, right? Or be that second option, right? That's kind of the dilemma that the Timberwolves have with Karl Anthony Towns right now. He didn't play well. He's making 50. And it's like, if I'm paying 50, you at least have to be reliable as a second option, if not the first option, making 50 million. Right. And I think when you start looking at the guys who make 50 million, you want them to be consistently high end players who can lead you somewhere. And for DeAndre Ayton, even for him, after getting that extension, it's not. But this is where you go back to that previous front office and you say, why did you do this? Why did you allow him to test free? Like, there's just like a whole dynamic with him and the Suns. Even new ownership is like, Sarver wasn't thinking about doing the extension. Monty Williams had a bad like an up and down relationship. I would say not bad, but an up and down relationship with Ayton. So now it's all over the place with Ayton right now in the Phoenix Suns. And if I were him, I'd probably want to get out of there too, just because for my 5 years being in the NBA, I've not really experienced a lot of stability in this organization.
Yeah, no question about it. Well said. And look, one of the things that you might want to hang your hat on if you're Ayton or if you're a Suns fan is he gets a fresh start with Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel, who likes to work with big men. Now he likes rim protectors. Maybe he devises a scheme that allows Ayton to be more effective there. Maybe Ayton, but can he get Ayton to buy in? How did they start that relationship off? How did they kick that off? According to, this was the beat writer who I was referring to, that is John Gambadoro, who covers the Phoenix Suns, sports radio host out there. Says Monty Williams reportedly disliked coaching DeAndre Ayton as well as Jay Crowder. He told people that that Crowder was difficult to handle and coach. It wasn't Suns organization. He didn't want Jay around. As far as Ayton, Monty didn't want him either. He wanted them to trade him to Indiana for Miles Turner. He didn't like to coach Ayton. So again, we'll see how Vogel changes things. Will he be a difference maker there? And how will Ayton be impacted? Can he improve his game under Frank Vogel? Because, look, I mean, as talented as Ayton is, I mean, he hasn't really improved his game over the 4 years he's been in the league, 5 years he's been in the league. He's kind of been the same guy. And not to say that that's a bad thing, because, look, this team, they were a great team last year. They won 60-plus games last year. They went to the finals the year before that. So, obviously, he's a good player, averaging a double-double. But is there another level to his game? You know, does he have that dog in him? I think that's what people are looking for. And for him to not be available for this team with the rib contusion in the elimination game, that's frowned upon. It just is what it is. We've seen it throughout the history of this game where players have injuries that some would still play through and cut it out. And for him to kind of be in street clothes while his team was trying to fight for their lives, that's frowned upon, man. So we'll have to see how Ayton responds there and the Suns' big four move forward.
Do you think that the perception of Ayton around the league is due to the fact that he was in the same draft class as Luka and he was taken first overall, and that he hasn't really lived up to that expectation? Or is it the fact that we've seen some brilliance from Ayton and it's just not at a consistent level? Or is it both? What do you think of that?
It's definitely both. When you're number one, man, like by now he should be an all-star, right? Mm-hmm. You should be an all-star with the hype that he came in with. He was a good player with Arizona. You should be an all-star by year 5, you know. And Luka obviously has taken off into superstardom. Ayton, I mean, where does he rank among centers in this league? He's a top 5. He ain't one. You know what I mean? You're a number one pick. And those numbers are going to continue to diminish because you have 3 guys who are going to be dominating the ball. So he's going to have to adjust. Whatever the expectations or the hype around him being that number one pick, he's going to have to ignore that and focus on how can he be that best 4th option for the Phoenix Suns. What are the little things that he could do to help this team win games? Because that's where they're going to need him to be impactful. You're no longer really going to need his offense that much. It's going to be on the defense, on the boards, on the intangibles, on the toughness, the physicality. That's where they're going to have to help him. How's he going to show up when Jokic comes to town and they're defending the titles in the playoffs? That's when he's going to have to show up.
This is where it's going to be even murkier, because if he can't do that, then I just don't see how his market's going to grow. And you try to trade him, you're going to have to sell him for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah,
because the center is looked as, just as the point guard is looked as the offensive conductor, the center is usually traditionally looked at as the defensive conductor, right? And sure, you can have players like Draymond who really changed that mold and others, but still, he is that safety valve, that break glass in cases of emergency. Someone comes down the lane, he's got to be able to block shots, grab those critical rebounds, all of those aspects, and he hasn't done so. So we'll see if he can finally become that defensive presence. He's got to do it now. He's going to be 25, man.
Yeah.
He's going to be 25 this year, and you need to show some sort of semblance that you're on the uptick and not just an inconsistent player making a big amount of money. That's kind of the issue with Miles Turner, too, when he got the extension. It's like, yeah, the Pacers are like, do we want to trade him? We kind of do want to trade him, and then they're looking at the returns like, this guy doesn't play defense. He hasn't really shown he's a defensive presence, not really a strong rebounder. That's kind of that same gray area that Ayton is in right now.
Yeah, true story, man. Shout out to our guy, Tommy Beer. Tommy Beer is going to be with us Friday for our free agency show. Make sure you guys tap in, man. Friday at 6 p.m., the Free Agency Central show, #1 free agency show for the fans, by the fans. We're going to be covering every single pick, every action, every signing, because you know, guys, once 6 o'clock rings through, once 6 o'clock comes through, you're going to get basically everything, right? Everybody who's been tampering and talking up to this point, it's all going to be out there on Front Street. So Tommy Beer will be here on Friday.
Before 6 p.m.
Before
TP.
6
We
p.m.
don't know how it is.
Yeah.
Shams and Woj can't wait.
Yeah, they already have the picks in the draft. They already got the signings in the drafts for Twitter. All they're just waiting to do is just hit the send button. It's already been announced.
Come on, man. The speed at which those guys tweet it's unheard of.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. But anyway, back to Tommy Beer. He says, over the next 8 years, the Suns control just one of their own draft picks. The Phoenix has traded their second-round pick in 24 from 24 through 30. 2024 through 2030. They've traded their first-round picks in 23, 5, 7, and 9. And then they have the pick swaps with the Wizards in 24, 26, 28, 20, and 30. Now, look, at least 24, maybe 26, you figure those pick swaps won't be in danger of, they won't be in danger of losing them unless they just have catastrophic injuries. But even still, man, your whole war chest is not even in your control. That's kind of crazy. That's a big gamble, but it's like, would you rather be playing on that end of the field, or would you rather be, drafted and I mean, there's no guarantees in either side is what I'm trying to say, right? There's no guarantee either path is going to get you to a championship.
I mean, where in league history has it shown that you spend this much on free agents and then has gotten you a championship by spending all that capital? I neither side is guaranteed, but I'd rather control my own destiny than rely on guys who, two of them have been injury prone. Kevin Durant now has lower leg injuries regularly. You now have Bradley Beal, who's been injury prone for the last couple of years as well. Devin Booker missed part of the season last year, although I believe that he can bounce back and still play a majority of the season. I'm sure he'll play over 65 games. And then you have those three guys, and then DeAndre Ayton, where you're just like, he's been so up and down. I mean, it is weird to be putting all your chips into this basket. I mean, yeah. I get that this is the new owner syndrome, right? The new owner comes in. We saw that with the Timberwolves. We can win now. Rudy Gobert is that dude.
Yeah.
And now you're doing the same thing for Bradley Beal, where it's like, has he been that guy that takes you over the top? And he'll finally get to compete in the playoffs yet again with a more talented roster. Okay. But still, I don't buy this team. I don't buy it. Obviously, we got to see it. Things can change, injuries, all that stuff. We have to see what unfolds this upcoming season. I still don't buy it, man. I still don't buy it.
Yeah, I don't see it, man. They're in an uphill battle. Shout out to Jay from PR. He says they got Durant and Booker. I'll do it too.
Jay's asking me, Alex, so you wouldn't trade for Durant? I'd trade for Durant, but I wouldn't just go all in on all the I wouldn't go all in on the Bradley Beal side.
Right.
That's where it ends for me. I would need somebody who's consistently shown. I mean, it's even like when you see, even when you had the big three in Miami, right? Mm-hmm. D Wade won a chip. LeBron's like, okay, one guy could take us to the finals. Mm-hmm. Chris Bosh, Toronto was like, okay, but still, you saw he was enough just to make them relevant, right? And you're like, if we have all three of these guys together, where we could sign them without having to lose assets, we could do that. You're losing assets for Bradley. You're losing depth and assets for Bradley Beal.
True story, man. True indeed. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys, man. The NBA Report, live and direct. CP the Franchise, Alex Chatar's the Stratocaster on the ones and twos. Happy Monday, man. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Who else we got in the chat, man? We got, shout out to Hulu Caesar. Marco Stoyanov, Marco in here. Salute to Marco, man. JJ from Brooklyn, always in here. Trump Poop says, do you think the Knicks make a big move? Do you think the Knicks make a big move, Al?
No.
Okay. All right. You just want to, just throw out the optimism? Okay. We're with it.
I mean, if anything about this front office over the last couple of years, I would say this. I would be okay. Let me ask you this. What do you think? What do you define as a big move? Trading for Paul George?
Yes.
Is that the big move? Okay.
Yeah.
Still don't think they do it, man.
Yeah.
Just because this front office is shown to be very patient.
Yeah.
and looking for the right opportunity, I don't see them doing. I think they just make around the margins moves. I mean, if the Timberwolves are going to be willing to run it back, why shouldn't the Knicks be willing to run it back after making it to the second round with the team that they have? In their eyes, they probably be like, look, we now got the full 9-man roster that ended the season. Let's see how they work through the beginning of the season. If anything, I think this team has shown that they're not really a big offseason swinger. They're a big trade deadline swinging team where you make the move for Derrick Rose, you make the move for Cam Reddish, you made the move for Josh Hart. I think this front office is shown throughout its 3 years that we like to evaluate what we got to start off the season, and then we try to make a move and see how the waters are during the middle of the season because things can change.
Yeah, good point. Good point, man. And as we segue into free agency, man, today's show, we're going to talk about our top 10 free agent guards and wings this coming free agency, man. June 30th on Friday, the names will be announced. And Al, you devised your top 10 list. We got it up here on the Jumbotron, man. Let's just run these off. We got Ayo Dosunmu, a restricted free agent from the Chicago Bulls at 10. Number 9, Seth Curry. This is top 10 guards. Number 8, Dennis Schroeder. Number 7, Gabe Vincent. Number 6, Russell Westbrook. Number 5, Jordan Clarkson. Number 4, D'Lo. Number 3, Fred VanVleet. And number 2, Irving. Number 1, Harden. Look, obviously Harden is the name to watch here. What will happen in terms of, is he going to go to Houston? Or is that just a leverage play, which I think it is, bro. I just think the Harden to Houston thing, it's just a leverage play. I don't believe in it. I can't see why he left that team because their championship window had closed. So, yes, you have relationships, your family there, it's in Turkey Lake Hut, the strip clubs and everything is great. But, like, why would you go back there knowing that the window is closed? To me, this is just a leverage play to opt out of the deal, get more money from the Sixers. You still have your championship window with Embiid, with Maxey, and your core there. The East is still open. Depending on what the Bucks do, depending on how the Celtics look, I think the East is still open. So why would you pass on all of that just to go to Houston? That one just doesn't make sense to me, man. I expect James Harden back with the Sixers, man. What do you think?
I have no idea what's going through James Harden's head, man. I feel like he could also. I agree with you, but I'll play devil's advocate for the sake of the conversation, and let's think about Houston. Family, business, liked it down there, right? He spent most of his time down there, was beloved in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him going back. You got Ime Udoka now. You could consider him as a more, I don't know. You can look at his resume, even though it's so small compared to Nick Nurse. You can be like, kind of like what Ime was able to do with Boston. Maybe if young guy, you got some young talent over there. Maybe you can get them into shape and play at a more respectable level. I can run with those guys. I need some youthful legs around me anyway, just because of my age. I don't have that same explosiveness that I once had, but I could still be a facilitator. I could still be a good shot creator. You think of having someone like Thompson, right? You think about having, if KJ Martin, if his contract is picked up by that team, you got Cam Whitmore, you got a bunch of young guys down there, Kevin Porter Jr., you got Jalen Green. Look, Sengun is a good passing big, right?
Yeah,
good
passing I like Sengun. Man.
Sengun is good, man. Yeah. He's good at finding cutters.
Yeah.
You could talk yourself, if you're James Harden, saying, I think those young guys just need a veteran who can just control the room and has a commanding presence. And you could say, okay, we move Jalen Green. I get back into that starting rotation, and then we could really shake things up. And then you can attract whatever other free agents to come down there to give more of a veteran presence. Work with Ime Udoka, like I said, who, look, he was a big reason why those Celtics had a turnaround with guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who needed that just kind of that strong presence right in the locker room, a commanding voice. And I think Ime would have that with those young guys because he's no nonsense. The way he would see after the press was just calling guys out, it's like, these guys are not doing it. And it's like, I think the Rockets need someone like that. I think if you're James Harden, you could talk yourself into that and go back there.
They definitely do need that. And so I can see why they'd be interested in bringing him back, being that extension of Ime on the court. He can lead, despite how he moves from a business standpoint. I think that's completely separate from the basketball side of things. I think from a basketball side of things, a lot of players who play with him will tell you that he can lead. Now, is this the time to do that? I would think this is the time to do that would be after this last big deal. Maybe a 2+1 option. Then you go there, you're 36, you're 35, you're 36. Now you want to finish your career, sunset, your championship window's closed. Now you want to get the young guys in order. I just don't think the time is right now for him to do that because you still have a good opportunity to win the chip going through the East and hoping things fall your way. You're still there. Your Phillies window is still right there. You got the MVP and Embiid. You got Maxey taking another year up. You get some reinforcements there off of the bench. They still need some depth. I don't really like all the pieces off the bench there for them. And even though what's his name? What's the 3-point shooter they got off the bench? I like his game a lot. Melton. I like Melton. Yeah. I like Melton a lot. But yeah, good.
So right now, the Rockets are number 1 in total in cap space, right? Mm-hmm. They only have 11 players signed. They haven't signed Cam Whitmore or Amen Thompson yet. So you look at the cap, and they're only using $85 million. $85 million. You got to bring in somebody. And if you're James Harden, you're saying, I want to get the bag. That's a team where you can go get the bag this offseason.
Yeah.
And whether or not you're competitive, James Harden is still enough of a presence where you're a playoff contending team. And with that youthful energy over there, something could change. Like I said, you add some veteran presence. Who knows? Maybe you get someone like a Seth Curry to join you to come off the bench and help lead. Maybe you do go get somebody like Fred VanVleet, and he's your point guard, and you're going back to shooting guard, and you still be that playmaker down in Houston. You get those two guys who have playoff experience, and if you get Fred VanVleet, who has that championship caliber type of talent, I think that's a team that you can't really turn down and look away from if you're someone like James Harden. So I get the East is open. We can go compete. Does James Harden care about that? That's the question we need to know, man.
Supposedly he left the Rockets for that. I mean, maybe things have changed, but that was the original reason.
Caring about, what does he care about more, man? Does he care about winning the chip, or does he care about getting a big bag? Right? Because sometimes, I mean, it's funny we even say that because playing in the NBA, you're still going to get a money that most people would love to see.
Yeah.
But regardless, like, if you really want to cash out and you're looking at a team that has so much cap space, and if you're James Harden, I don't see how you can not consider it and not even be serious at thinking, who can I connect with to go there to make us at least playoff relevant? And that's something that the owner wants, right? He does not want to tank anymore. He does not want to be non-competitive. James Harden helps you with that.
Yeah.
To at least.
Fair point. I think it's Van Fleet that Houston ends up with, man. I'm just gonna throw my prediction out there. I think it's Van Fleet. I think Harden stays with Philly, and I think Van Fleet, as the rumors have pointed to Van Fleet being a backup option, I think it is Van Fleet. I think that would be a good pickup for the Rockets. You know what I mean? He can play on the ball. He can play off the ball if you want to play him with Green. I like that pickup. Championship pedigree. Give him a little edge. Give him some toughness. Again, be an extension of the coach on the court. They need somebody to get those young guys together. They have a lot of young, promising talent, man. I like how this Rockets young core is looking, but they need kind of a glue to put that all together. And I think Van Fleet can help.
They need a playmaker and a guard who can lead and organize. And it's very tough to get a point guard who can come in and do that immediately. So getting someone like Fred VanVleet would help with the development of everyone on that roster. I'm just curious who's going to be on the outside looking in for the Rockets. I know we were talking about James Harden, but you can't have all these guys on the roster who are so young and have a lot of promise, because minutes it just goes back to the Timberwolves conversation, man. Where are all these minutes coming from? I'm trying to pull up the Rockets depth chart right now, and just go through some of the names so that way the listeners know how many young players the Rockets have. Right now, you got Kevin Porter. This is what ESPN, by the way, has as their depth chart. Point guard is Kevin Porter Jr., shooting guard is Jalen Green, small forward is Amen Thompson, power forward is Jabari Smith Jr., center is Alperen Sengun. Second unit would be Jock Landale for point guard. Shooting guard is Josh Christopher. Small forward is Kenyon Martin Jr. Power forward is Tari Eason. Center is Usman Garuba, who's also another good player. And you keep going down that list
too, man.
You got Kenyon Martin, like I said, you got Kenyon Martin Jr. You got Cam Whitmore, right? Where all those guys fit in, man. You're telling me that the guy that you just drafted in the first round is going to be playing third on the depth chart, and this is where, because I got some questions about the KJ Martin love that I've been showing and saying maybe that's a guy that you can get in free agency, because as of right now, the Houston Rockets have not picked up the last year of his contract, so when you see him on some trackers, he's considered a free agent because there's no clear direction what the Rockets are going to do. But he's a guy who, even though his trajectory has been going up, second round pick, was last season asking to be traded because he wants more minutes. You now have Cam Whitmore. It's hard to tell me that you spend a first round pick on someone like Cam Whitmore, even with all the issues aside, whether it's medical or effort. He has to get playing time. He has to get playing time. You're not telling me a first round pick is not going to get playing time in his first year when you have it's just hard to believe. Just very hard to believe, especially for a young team like that. So someone's on the outside looking at it, man. Someone's on the outside looking at it.
No question about it, man. Kyrie, I see Kyrie to the Mavs. I don't think he has a market. Lakers don't look like they're going to be aggressive in trying to get him. I just don't see anybody else but the Mavs having that inside track there. Thoughts?
I'm sorry, one more time.
Kyrie. I'm predicting Kyrie to the Mavs. I don't really see. Yeah. Kyrie to the Mavs, man.
I think Kyrie to the Mavs is all set and done. Yeah. It doesn't seem like he has a market.
Doesn't have a market.
I mean, and you'd think that the whole Lakers LeBron reunion would be one to look out for, but look, as talented as Kyrie is, you have to take his baggage into consideration, whether or not you agree or disagree with what Kyrie has done over the past couple of years. You have to take into the consideration the amount of games that he's missed. And if you're a team, do you want that media attention, right? Because he does bring an attention to him, whether it's right or wrong. There is something that teams do consider. It's like, how much publicity do we want in this light? Do we want to put our PR team through the ringer? I mean, that is what the Brooklyn Nets went through. And you saw that we are okay stripping this thing down.
Yeah.
You had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and at one point, James Harden, and you stripped it all the way down because you're like, that's it. So I think for Dallas, they're clear running just because Kyrie doesn't have a market, man.
Yeah, I agree, man. D'Lo, I wouldn't touch D'Lo with a 10-foot pole if I'm any team. He's when will listen? Not trying to take food off the guy's plate. He works hard. He's earned his bag. He's out in Toronto right now working out. He works hard. I don't see D'Lo as a winning player. I wouldn't spend more than the vet minimum or mid-level tops on D'Lo. Didn't like his play. He was okay. He was okay with the Lakers playoffs. He was nowhere to be found, which was nowhere to be found with the Timberwolves in the playoffs. I wouldn't go near D'Lo. I think I go draft a kid before I put D'Angelo Russell and sign money to him, especially with these new cap conditions, bro.
Wow.
Bro, he stinks. He stinks, bro. Who else? Brody. With the Clippers losing out on Chris Paul, you got to figure Brody goes back there, right? Found found some success there.
Yeah.
They're gonna continue to need a guy that can put pressure on the rim. Played very well for the Clippers. Now that the CP3 thing is out the rear view and the rumors of him not wanting to play with CP3, I have to think that that he goes there unless he gets a bigger bag somewhere else, because I believe the Clippers can only afford to pay him about $3 million. So we'll see what the market for Brody is. Gonna be very interesting. Has he upped his value a little bit?
I think for Westbrook, he should stay with the Clippers just because he had success there. Like that Lakers run, man. Like everyone saw that was just terrible, a terrible fit.
Yeah.
Regardless of all the jokes aside that came with it, right? If LeBron could win Westbrook a chip, then LeBron's truly the greatest of all time, and all those jokes about that pairing. But you find success with the Clippers, they need somebody, as you said, that can get downhill. I think he's a good yin to the PG-13 and Kawhi Leonard Yang. So if I were him, I'd stay there. I found success there, stay there. I'm back home. Don't think twice about it. Just do it. You made your money, man. I mean, and you got to give credit to Westbrook because when he was on the Lakers, he accepted that role of coming off the bench. So I think his mindset is changing. I don't see a team that's really going to make him a lead guard at this point, just because the fit of what he does is so. He's a high usage guy, man. He's a high usage guy. I don't see a team that's going to put him in the starting rotation. He'd have to be comfortable being a 6-man anywhere else. And I think if you want to know that you get some solid minutes, Clippers are going to be that team because they've been looking for somebody who can, once again, command that type of pressure on the rim.
Yeah, no question. I got Clippers there as well. Other notable on this list, whatever, Schroeder, Seth Curry will end up on a vet minimum somewhere. Hopefully the Knicks or someone like that, depending on the moves that they make, they could use a three-point shooter off the bench. Gabe Vincent. I think Vincent will be interesting. Miami has to also make a decision on Strus. Both guys have upped their value. Both guys have earned it in the way that they performed, bringing this Heat team to the championship. They will have to make a decision on Caleb Martin next year. After next season. So does one of these guys shake loose? Do they sign Vincent, give him the bag, go forward with them, but also have that money as tradable salary in the event that they ultimately want to go get Dame? Sam Amick of The Athletic is saying that Dame wants to go to Miami. I mean, the Dame stuff is just giving me a headache. Every day he's staying, he's going, he's staying, he's going. Just make it happen, man. But, with Vincent, I think he could stay with Miami as, part of a continued building block for them or as maybe tradable salary for Dame.
If I'm Miami, I'm figuring out a way. If I'm getting Dame, I'm figuring out a way to get off of Kyle Lowry. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And if you're Gabe Vincent, right, I'm thinking of where do I go to be a starter in this league? Because I started for the Miami Heat. I was in the playoffs. I was a big reason why we made a deep run to the NBA Finals. It'll be interesting how Miami is able to navigate those waters. But I'm in agreement with you, CV, about this whole Dame conversation. Can we just stop? Like, look, man, it's why I even asked
the
David Aldridge.
Just get ridiculous, man.
That's why I asked David Aldridge this question, man. Just like, at what point do we just say, come on, man, just give up the whole being loyal thing? At this point, are you even being loyal? Are you even being loyal to the team anymore? It's like, how about the one where his agent had to do, and I put in quotation marks, damage control for the song with Miami reference in there? It's like, Come on, man. Come on. We know you want to go there. No one's going to be upset at this point. Portland has not done it for you, man. They're screaming that they're doing a rebuild. They're screaming that they're trying to do a rebuild. They're just asking for you to say, I want to go. Just say it.
It's insane, man. It is absolutely insane. So we'll see what happens as the world turns. Dame Dallas edition. So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. We got 400 people tapping into the NBA report right now, man. If you guys are in the chat, leave us a hashtag new if you guys are new viewers, and also get those likes up. Let's get up to 400 likes. This is a new channel, so we got to tap into the algorithm. The more we tap in with the algorithm, the more the algorithm will show this video to fans that need to be in here, to be watching the number one show for the fans by the fans. We just had John Krasinski, Timberwolves insider, in here dishing on Naz Reid, Karl Anthony Towns. We even talked a little Zach Lavine. We're talking about our top 10 free agent pickups at the guard and the wing spot. Number one show for the fans by the fans, man. It's also a call-in show, 657-383-1509, or you could hit us up on the NBA Report Discord if you want to tap in. I see some new people, but some old people, if you know what I'm saying now. But shout out to Brandon Guest. Shout out to Philip Ross. Shout out to Blood of the Panther. Team Obi. Salute, man. Salute Feliciano Media in here. How you feeling, man? How you feeling? Brandon Guest says keep putting on for New York. Absolutely, man. Salute to Brandon Guest. Big friend of the
Jay
program.
from East New York is in here, too. Jay
Never misses a show. Jay from East New York tapping in. Salute to Will Latimer. Big friend of the program, man. Will Latimer hailing from the ATL. Salute to Will. Michael Powell in here. Salute to Michael Powell as well. So we got some regulars, man. JJ in here as well, man. Okay, so we talked about our guards. Remember the free agency.
I got some honorable mentions if you want to go through some guards.
Let's go through.
Here's some honorable mentions. Quick, you tell me if you want to touch on anyone.
Okay.
Trey Jones, he's currently with the Spurs, but he's a restricted free agent.
Okay.
Devon Carter with the Milwaukee Bucks.
That'd be an interesting pickup.
Kobe White, also a restricted free agent. Patrick, who's with the Bulls. Patrick Beverly with the Bulls. Shake Milton from the Philadelphia 76ers. And Reggie Jackson on the championship-winning Denver Nuggets. Those are some other honorable mentions at the guard position. Any one of those names intrigue you if you're a team around the NBA?
I think Kobe White could be interesting.
Ooh.
I think Kobe White could be interesting.
That's an interesting name that you would go for, Kobe White.
Well, I mean, you talk about Reggie Jackson, Pat Bev. I mean, those guys are like the all-washed all-stars here, man. Trey Jones, he's okay, right? I mean, of that list, who gives me the most upside, right? I'm going Kobe White.
You're going Kobe White.
Who else did you have on that list? You had Trey Jones. Who else?
Javon Carter, Patrick Beverly.
I like Carter. He's a scrapper. He's definitely a two-way scrapper. I think he could help a veteran team. I would look at Boston, who just lost to Marcus Smart. Obviously, he's not replaceable, but a Boston, he's restricted.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Carter's restricted or unrestricted?
He's unrestricted.
I think Boston should take a look at that. You know, does he last finished with Milwaukee, right?
CP, don't say that too loud for the Celtics, man. Come on. But yes.
Yeah, I think Boston should take a look at a guy like that. Someone to add some toughness. You know, a dog picks up 94 feet. You know, can get it done, can knock down a three. I think Boston should take a look at that. He might be a little bit better than Pritchard.
Shake Milton's interesting. I like his game.
Yeah,
I like his game. I think he's an interesting guard as well to look at on the market. I don't see Trey Jones leaving the Spurs.
Yeah, but
he's a guy like his brother. Can control the rock, good facilitator. Not really a good shooter. He can get downhill a little bit. Right. He needs to improve his game. But if you're looking for someone who's that traditional point guard who can just bring the rock up for you and start facilitating, that's a guy that you can rely on.
Salute to Soldier Slim in the chat. Salute to Gene Vernelis, team #new. Gene, how you feeling, man? Okay. All right, so we got through our all-washed all-stars. Kobe White being the shining star out of those. Hey, 37% from 3, 4 attempts. Might be able to help the team. We'll see if the Bulls look to move forward with him.
Disrespect.
I mean, the Bulls should probably go forward with him as they, try to scrape up something of a youth movement and try to move forward because their big three is destined to fail. But I think
hope Pat Bev and Reggie Jackson do a podcast just to be like, did you hear what this guy CP the franchise guy said?
Hey, Reggie got a ring. Reggie got a ring. Give him credit. He got a ring. He didn't play much, but he got it. He got his ring. Good for him, man. Good for Reggie. All right, let's go through the wings. At number 1, Chris Middleton. Number 2, Austin Reeves, White Iverson. Number 3, Bruce Brown. Good list. Cameron Johnson, restricted free agent from the Brooklyn Nets. Josh Hart, Knicks Nation stand up. Dante DiVincenzo. Karis LeVert at 7. Max Strus at 8. Torrey Craig at 9. And Malik Beasley at 10. These are top 10 wings coming up in free agency. And Chris Middleton's name rings off the charts, man. It's Chris Middleton who, over the weekend or late last week, it was announced that Middleton would be opting out of his $40 million player option with the Milwaukee Bucks to become an unrestricted free agent. Where will Middleton go? Is it back with Bucks? Is it Rockets? I mean, how many teams? There's only but so many teams with cap space, right? Is it Orlando? I don't see that there with Franz Wagner. He's 31 years old. Injury concerns. He only played, how many games did he play this year? He played 33 games this year. Came back from the knee injury. He's getting a little bit injury prone. He's 31 years old. How many teams are really going to shell out money for Chris Middleton? To me, this is the Bucks need this guy because their championship window is open. I felt like, to me, this team were my favorites to win it last year.
Yep.
And a Giannis back injury tanked that. They were my favorites to win it the year before that.
Yep.
And they couldn't beat Boston. So their window is still open. I think Middleton is crucial for the Bucks to have because that's it. That is their window. And without him, they don't have much wiggle room to build a team. But this is the gamble. This is the downside to gambling to win a championship, which they got. It paid off, right? They traded all those draft picks for Drew Holiday. It got them a championship. But now it's a challenge to how do you stay on top? How do you maintain your team to maintain your championship window? The Lakers saw that when they did that for Anthony Davis. They got it, but since then it's been a struggle to get back to the pinnacle. It's a gamble. It's the risk that you take. It's a worthwhile risk because it turned into a championship, but now becomes a challenge of how do you stay on top. And for me, the Bucks, Chris Middleton has to be there along with Brooke Lopez, but it starts with Middleton, man.
Absolutely. I mean, if you lose Middleton, I don't see how you're a championship team if you're the Milwaukee Bucks. Like Drew Holiday, love Giannis Antetokounmpo. You're not a championship team without Chris Middleton. I know he was inconsistent even the year that they won their ring, but still, not having Middleton against the against the Boston Celtics was critical. I think that's what gave the Boston Celtics an edge.
Yeah,
because they didn't really have a consistent guy who can get to his spots on the floor and take those necessary jumpers. You then go to this year, not having your MVP in Giannis Antetokounmpo, missing some time against the Miami Heat, just gave the Miami Heat that much more confidence, especially a guy like Jimmy Butler, to make that upset. So if you lose Middleton, if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you're a playoff team. You're not a championship contending team, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And breaking news here, Al. Breaking news, a Woj bomb setting off. John Collins, ladies and gentlemen, has finally been traded.
Good Lord.
It took the Hawks 3 years to get this done. But according to Woj, the Hawks are finalizing a trade to send John Collins to the Jazz for Rudy Gay and a second-round pick. Atlanta's largely unloading Collins' 3 years at $78 million for some roster-building flexibility and alignment with looming changes to the salary cap. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. The blockbuster Collins trade that everyone was speculating on for 3 straight years, 3 straight trade deadlines, finishes with Rudy Gay, a second-round pick. I mean, throw something else in there, like a shooting drill machine. They're gonna give him like a bag of new Wilson basketballs. I mean, throw a little something extra in there for John Collins, man. What do you think, bro?
What is happening with this deal? Is this just seems like we're done with it.
Yeah.
I'm sure Collins wanted to get out of there at this point, right? We've heard just the whole rumors of him being up and down with the Atlanta Hawks. At this point, this trade is nasty on all sorts of levels. Okay. I don't know who's, as of right now, because it's so fresh, I don't know who lost this trade.
Yeah, right.
I do not know who lost this trade. But I mean, where does he fit in on Utah? Because you got Lauri Markkanen, who plays power forward. You got Kessler Walker, who plays center. So is Collins playing small ball 5? Is that what's happening? No, You know, I know that Cleveland went big when they had marketing with Mobley and Jared Allen. Like you had the marketing Mobley Allen show out there with marketing playing the three, but is that what they're going to do out in Utah? Why is Atlanta want Rudy Gay?
Well, for the Hawks, I mean, what we're seeing, the trend is if you go to the Beal trade, you go to the Warriors trading Jordan Poole, you go to Boston trading Marcus Smart, Atlanta trading Collins. This is the cap maneuverability that teams are looking for to be mindful of that second apron. And so there's going to be a lot of cap casualties. Now for Collins, he wasn't making that team any better. He's a scrapper. He's a versatile player. Obviously has the athleticism. You know, a lot of posters and things of that nature. He give you some positional versatility, a little bit. High flyer. We know all of that, but he wasn't making the Hawks any better. And so with the investment that they made in DeJounte Murray, with what they have in Trae Young, obviously with Quinn Snyder there, they needed some cap flexibility very, very badly because they have a lot invested in a lot of average talent. I mean, I couldn't believe that they even re-signed Bogdanovich to that deal when he's on the downside of his career. So they've made a lot of questionable signings. So Collins, as we've seen over the last few years, he was the next domino to fall. Gives Utah another player that they can evaluate. I think that's where they are in their rebuild, right? Just getting young talent, either through draft picks or through trades or through free agency, as they did over last offseason. Bring these guys in and see what you get out of it. See what young coach Will Hardy can make out of it. Does he come off the bench? As you said, does he play a small ball five? Do they go with, a big front court rotation with him, Marketing, and Kessler? Who knows? That'll be up to Will Hardy to decide. But I think both teams came out well on this in terms of the Hawks getting out from under that contract as they've wanted to do for some time, and the Jazz getting a player who they can evaluate. Does he fit their system, and what do they do with him going forward?
CP. I'm sorry. I don't even know what the Utah Jazz are doing with this. I'm looking at the depth chart right now after the draft, and I forgot Utah got Taylor Hendricks.
Yeah, they did.
They got Kelly Olynyk.
They did.
Where does John Collins fit on this roster?
Yeah.
I got like marketing Walker Kessler. We know that they're slated to be there. I don't even know what Utah. I don't know how you could say we're going to add all these players at this position and say evaluate. You know, I would expect them to go out and go get a guard. Because you got Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton. I believe Jordan Clarkson is a free agent.
Well, we got him on the free agent list, yeah.
Yeah, so you got Clarkson as a free agent. Colin Sexton is another name that's been thrown out there. Like, Are they going to keep Colin Sexton? Like, I know he got extended with the Jazz, but this is just, I don't know what you're doing with Collins on this roster. I don't know where he gets. I just don't know where he fits in, man. Because once again, you used a first round pick on Taylor Hendricks. The Utah Jazz are looking to rebuild, so he has to be evaluated within his 4 years. Is Kelly Olynyk not going to stay with? I guess he's the one that would have to
Kelly.
be. I guess he would have to be the one that's gone because I think he's also another free agent this year. I'm looking it up right now to see where he's at, and Olynyk is. He's partially guaranteed for the upcoming season, and he's an unrestricted free agent. So at the end of 2024. Mm-hmm. So unless Utah decides not to bring him back, you know, there's some money there they could use, but I don't know, man. I don't know what the Jazz are thinking with adding another big into their already cluttered rotation. I hope everyone else talks about it though, because as Knicks fans, remember, we had the whole conversation when we signed 4 or 5 power forwards. Right. Remember that? Remember that conversation. I hope everyone gives the same questions to the Utah Jazz.
I'm telling you, man. But you know what, Jay? I think Jay from PR said it right. Jay said this. I think this is just Ainge stockpiling assets. Yes, you have Hendricks in tow, but you know you have Collins there. Do you flip Collins? Can you get a low end first round pick? Maybe Collins is there for a year or so, and then you look at it and say, well, we were able to get another asset for basically trading away Rudy Gay and a future second round pick. I mean, they really gave up nothing to get the guy. how he fits. Again, that'll have to be the organization's strategy and decision making on how he fits best. But they're not under any win now window or championship window where they can't afford to do it. I think you roll the dice, you see what he gives you, and you see what you can trade him for in the next year or two, and see where it goes, man. John Collins going to the Utah Jazz, man. Silver Surfer in the chat says Ainge is going to trade Collins for 2 firsts at the trade deadline. You never
Can you imagine? Could you imagine Danny Ainge?
Yeah.
It's Will Hardy to increase the value of John Collins and
yeah,
man.
Yeah. You never know, man. So interesting developments. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. CP and Alex on the check-in, man. Breaking news: John Collins to the Utah Jazz for a bag of basketballs and some pocket lint. What do you guys think about it, man? Leave us some comments in the comment section.
Pocket lint's a little much, man. I think that's a little too expensive.
It might be. So as we were talking about on the guards and wings, we talked about Chris Middleton. To me, that's got to be the Bucks going back. Austin Reeves, same thing. I don't think the Lakers can afford to let him go because clearly they are still committed to the LeBron and AD ticket to keep their championship, quote unquote championship hopes alive. And Austin Reeves has to be a significant part of it, man. Had a great season this year. I thought it was great for them in the playoffs. Showed a lot of shot creation bag. Showed a lot of toughness. He really surprised me in that run. And so, you never know. Again, could the Rockets, a team with some cap space, come in there, swoop in, and try to get an Austin Reeves? It's left to be seen, man. But I think it's for the Lakers, man. Lakers have to bring this kid back. Shot 40% from 3 on 3 attempts, 13 points per game, 3 boards, 3 assists. A 61% effective field goal percent, bro. 61%, Austin Reeves.
Yo, he was efficient, good scorer, strong guard, man, even for his frame.
Yeah.
Knows how to draw contact, get to the free throw line. Yeah, I don't see how the Lakers can let this guy walk. If this guy does walk, and if I'm the Knicks, I am making sure I get Austin Reeves, in all honesty. But I think the Lakers just keep him, man. He was, I think when you traded for D'Lo, you're like, oh, this guy could be the third option if you're the Lakers. But then what really happened is that Austin Reeves became the third option. Even Rui Hachimura, I know we're doing bigs later on. He became like a fourth option for that team. And D'Lo continued to drop down the list on importance, but got to keep Austin Reeves if you're the Lakers just to stay competitive. We're talking about, even though they got swept, Lakers, that series was very close. There was no game that was out of reach for the Lakers. So if you're the Lakers, you got to feel pretty confident with the team that you were able to put together after the trade deadline during the regular season. And you got to make sure to run it back with majority of this roster, and Austin Reeves should be part of that.
Yeah. 94th percentile in the league in effective field goal percentage, bro. 94th percentile. Shot 80% at the rim last season. 97th percentile at the rim. 51% from the mid-range. 41% from 3. Talk about accuracy, man.
And he did that with
accuracy.
CP, and he did that with amongst wings, right? He did that averaging 28.7 minutes per game. He did that with a 16.6% usage rate, which ranks amongst all wings, according to Clean the Glass, in the 47th percentile. The guy is hyper efficient.
Yeah. Lakers, don't drop the ball. Lakers do not drop the ball on that. And speaking of Lakers, we're going to be talking more Lakers on Wednesday with our special guest, Alex Hollingsworth, who covers the Lakers for Lakers Central podcast, man, friend of the program. Can't wait to talk Lakers with him. Who else? Bruce Brown, another interesting guy. Bruce Brown, we know his free agency story last year. He said nobody wanted him. Signed a 1+1 with the Nuggets, $6 million per. Got the chip. Now he's after the bag. And so you have reports out there saying that they expect to lose him. We'll see what happens there. He can return to Denver. This is according to our guy, Bobby Marks. Let me pull this up real quick. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. NBA report live and direct. Here's Bobby Marks. He says, here are the options for Bruce Brown. He says he can return to Denver on a contract that starts at $7.8 million. That's the most they can give him. He said this would be similar to what Bobby Portis did in Milwaukee. That is the max he can get because he has non-bird rights and Denver is a taxed team. This would allow him to establish early bird rights in 2024 and sign for a contract north of $12 million. But the thing is, he can go out there and get $12 million anywhere. All right, as Mark says, he can sign with a team that has cap space or with the $12 million non-taxpayer mid-level exception. So that's going to be interesting, man, because, look, maybe the Knicks.
Yeah.
Maybe the Knicks. Knicks got the mid-level. I think I would go with Bruce Brown before I went with Dante DiVincenzo.
That makes sense, especially with a wing coming off the bench. But my question for you, if you're the Knicks and you're thinking about Bruce Brown, is he redundant to someone like Josh Hart?
Absolutely. But at this stage in the game, like there's no, unless they go out there and get a Torrey Craig, like is there a real wing out there that they can get? Either via free agency or trade.
I mean, if you're looking for more shooting, right? And it's one thing to look at the percentages and be like, well, Josh Hart shot a crazy percentage once he came to the Knicks.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at someone like Bruce Brown, and I'm just getting the statistics right here just to make sure I got his numbers correct.
Mm-hmm.
Not a consistent 3-point shooter.
No.
Even though he shot 35% on low volume, 3.2 attempts per game. Is that somebody that you want? Like, I like Bruce Brown, but I'm thinking about having Josh Hart as well. Do we need to add more inconsistent shooting, even though it looks good on paper? Because he's a high energy guy, solid rebounder, good playmaker, high energy, high energy. Do you need more of that on this team, which will make you competitive? As someone like the Knicks, you'll be very competitive in the playoffs. But as we saw, we need consistent 3-point shooting.
Consistent 3-point shooting,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if that's the guy I want to necessarily go after when we have somebody like that in Josh Hart. I think it's too redundant of a skill base, which would be great. If this was like, we're talking 90s basketball. You want to tell me we're going to get more hustlers out there, can shoot, even though they're inconsistent on the bench, they can give you some solid minutes, 100%. But as we see as the game evolves year after year, season after season, I think if you're the Knicks, you go after someone with more shooting, which is why I think I like the idea, but I'm also hesitant. Someone like the Nuggets, I think you just got to be like, you just don't even care about the salary cap at this point. If you want to continuously run it back, I think you just say, look, man, we had seats we had a lot of people fill the seats this season. We just won the championship. The cap implications don't really start affecting teams until 2 years down the road. Let's just run it back.
Yeah, they're going to have to hope and say, hey, look, could you give us a Bly, take the $7.8 million, and we'll take care of you next year. But for Bruce Brown, it's like, yo, I might not have the same year I had last year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're looking at Bruce Brown, you're like, look, if I can get this 12 right now from somebody on the open market, maybe it's in Orlando, maybe it's a Houston, maybe it's a Detroit. You got to take it and run. You got your chip already. You got to get the bag.
Yeah.
You got to get the bag. So
I hear you.
That's an interesting choice for Bruce Brown, because I don't think the Nuggets are a slam dunk. Cam Johnson, I see that as Nets. He's a restricted free agent. I think the Nets keep him. Number one. What's up?
The Nets, there was a report out there saying that the Nets would meet a 4-year, $100 million contract extension.
Yeah.
In restricted free agency just to keep him. So I think even though I like Cam Johnson, I like his upside. It's a steep amount of money, but once again, for consistent 3-point shooting, you got to pay a premium.
Yeah, you need that. You need that. I love his game as a two-way player. He's tough. He can light it up. He's a sniper. You keep him. You give him the bag. As he said, I think the report was like they wouldn't go overboard. They wouldn't overpay. but anything reasonable they will match, and they should. And you keep him in the system. You have him in Bridges, continue as your core. And if you are interested in a Dame deal and Dame does ultimately become available, that's some salary that you can send to Portland and bring to help get Dame back to Brooklyn.
Here it is. According to NBA insider Brian Windhorst, Brooklyn is prepared to match an offer sheet for the 27-year-old small forward up to 4 years, $100 million.
There you go.
So there
you go.
I don't think anyone's going to be offering over $100 million for Cam Johnson over 4 years, but that should give you an indication on where things stand.
Absolutely, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Somebody who's at Jay from Brooklyn. Okay, here we go. Some more breaking news here. Shout out to our guy Jay from East New York for the tidbit. Because it says here, Blood of the Panther, sorry. Shout out to Blood of the Panther. Chris Haynes. According to Chris Haynes, Portland Trailblazers star Damian Lillard and his agent Aaron Goodwin are meeting with the team today to discuss the franchise's direction. Buckle up.
Oh, man.
Buckle up.
Which one's more nauseating? I know we're Knicks fans, but which one is more nauseating? I guess it's just because the Knicks fandom in me doesn't want to hear any more about the Miami Heat. But is it Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks that took over last summer, or is it Dame to Miami?
It's definitely
which one's more nauseating?
It's definitely Dame to Miami. It's Dame talk, period. Because the Dame talk has been going on for like 3 years now, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least the Spider thing was like, once Utah flopped out and they decided to make the trade for Gobert, then it started like ratcheting up a little bit. Spider. And then it became Spider to Nick. But for Dame, it's been going on 3 years, man.
I feel you. But and shout out to our guy, Mark Berman, formerly of the New York Post. He would always drop the article of like Donovan Mitchell, he's from Westchester area, New York, maybe to the Knicks one day. So it's like every time the Jazz came to town, you could just book that article was dropping. So I don't know, man. I don't know, but I hear you with
I'm over it.
I think for the Dame stuff, it's just I think because the tone, it's not even like the connection, it's more of the loyalty to Portland and just like this whole thing. I could see though that being the winner, because it's like at this point, man, what are you loyal to?
Yeah.
What are you being loyal to?
It's true, man. Great points. And on this list, next up on this list, a couple of the guys, DiVincenzo we talked about, doesn't look like he's going back to Golden State. Could the Knicks be an option there? We'll have to wait and see. LeVert, also an interesting option. I would have to think Cleveland tries to bring him back, because if not, they lose a big depth piece there in terms of them trying to compete and maintain their level in the East. Strus, we talked about Strus and Vincent. I would have to think, well, maybe, does Strus get the bag and go somewhere else? Does he go to Detroit? Does he go somewhere else?
Yep.
Torrey Craig, I think the Suns have to keep him by any means necessary. I would have to think that they could take care of him by the free agent deadline. And then, Beasley, we'll see what happens with Beasley. Didn't really finish the season well. Flamed out of the Lakers rotation. Had an okay season with the Jazz. He could be a vet minimum guy. Or maybe a little more. We'll see how much teams value him. But, yeah, top 10 wings, man.
Yeah, and I got some honorable mentions here as well for the wings.
Let's go.
Got Joe Ingles.
Okay.
Taylor Horton Tucker, THT.
Yep.
Yuto Watanabe.
Yep.
Watanabe. Josh Richardson.
Okay.
And your guy, the only one, Alec Burks. And for those of you who are new to this program, and if you have not checked out Knicks Fan TV, because we've been getting a lot of love for the new show, CP. I've seen it in the comments, people just finding out about the channel.
Yep. Don't
necessarily know us and the coverage about Knicks Fan TV. CP loves Alec Burks. This is his guy.
That's my guy,
especially when he was on the Knicks. This is CP's guy.
Yeah.
And for Ron from Baltimore, this is MJ Burks.
Yeah.
So there's your honorable mentions.
I'm telling you, 41% from three on damn near 5 attempts. You know, Burks he's just one of those guys he's just underrated. But I guarantee you, the next NBA player that we bring onto this show, that will be one of the questions. What's it like to go up against Alec Burks? And we'll let somebody from the league
to go up against Alec Burks.
We'll let somebody from the league tell you just how good Alec Burks is, because people just don't see it. He's a hooper.
Yes, when we finally bring on Cade Cunningham after my man needs to go to a barber. All right, yeah. I've been seeing some pictures roam around there. Cade, go hit up the barber real quick, bro. We're gonna ask Cade, what's it like with practicing with Alec Burks in the gym? We can even, when we get Emmanuel Quickly, Obi Toppin, someone or any one of those guys, what was it like witnessing the greatness of Alec Burks? That's gonna be CP's first question. The greatness of Alec Burks.
It's gonna take the talent to know the talent. Next NBA player that we have on NBA Report, they're gonna tell you, man. They're gonna tell you. But THT is definitely an interesting name. Had a good year with the Jazz. Finished strong with them. We'll see where he ends up. Who else did you have on that list? I like THT. Who else did you have?
Joe Ingles.
Utah
Watanabe.
Ingles can still shoot. He's washed, but he can still shoot. You know, is a Boston a contender? They traded Gallinari. I think Ingles to Boston, give them some depth. Obviously, he could fit into their scheme. Does he go back to Milwaukee? I think or does he go back? Does he go to Phoenix on a vet minimum deal?
Yeah.
You know, I think those are some of the teams, some of the contenders could use him as a vet minimum. Golden State, is that a possibility? We'll have to see there. I think Ingles could certainly help as just some shooting, a little bit of playmaking, definitely not defense, but a veteran presence, nevertheless.
I think that's the last part for Ingles, right? I think it's more so at this point the veteran presence. Like his shooting is there. He shot over 40% this season with the Bucks, but I think he's 35, 36 at this point. Came into the league at the age of 27. So you got to think that he's on the downturn. I mean, we saw that with the Bucks too. At this point, if you're a team, are you looking to get more youth? But for someone like Ingles, maybe he gets spot minutes off the bench if someone's hurt, someone's sick. That's what you got to think right now. Even if he goes to a team like Boston, as you're talking about, that's a team where you're saying, okay, he's probably not going to get a lot of minutes, but in the times that you need someone to continue to space the floor, it's a guy who's pretty reliable. Someone that I like, though, is I like Yuta Watanabe. Like, I'm just curious, can he continue that type of production that we saw on the Nets? Because it's either you're buying a lot of stock. You gotta either be buying a lot of stock, or you're just super cautiously like optimistic, right? You're because it's either thinking that he's taking 2.3 attempts per game, shooting 44%. He can continuously do this, or you're like, we believe that he's got some talent there, right? Because you look at the field goal percentage, he's still shot under 50%. Only averaged 5.6 points. Played 58 games. We will go over the top to get him. If we don't get him, we're okay. But we'll try to be somewhat aggressive trying to get his talents to the team. I don't know, man. Like, I see 44% shooting on 2.3 attempts, and it's like, okay. And for the most part, he shot over 35% 3 out of the 5 seasons in the league.
Yeah.
But 44%, I think that's kind of a little bit of fool's gold to be.
Yeah, it's interesting, nevertheless, and I think it'll help him get a bag. So we'll see if he can continue somewhere close. Obviously, you got to expect a little regression there, but even still, man, certainly a scrapper that any team can use. So we'll see. I think Knicks. I think Phoenix. Does he go back? Does he reconnect with Kevin Durant in Phoenix? See what happens there, man. So to everybody in the chat, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. All right, Al. According to Brian Windhorst, Victor Wembanyama will not be playing in the FIBA World Cup for France, man. No Wemby for Wembanyama. Instead, he will turn his attention to focus on the regular season for the San Antonio Spurs and also the Olympics in Paris, in which they'll be hosting in 2024. Olympics coming right around the corner. That's next summer. According to Windhorse, so to everybody in the chat, according to Brian Windhorse, in his article here for ESPN, he says that Wembanyama had played a total of 62 games for his team in France, the Metropolitans 92. Including his first season with the Spurs and plans for the Olympics, he calculated he was looking at playing at 170 games in a 24-month span. So that made that seem like the World Cup was a little too much. So I agree with that. You know, the World Cup, obviously, it's not the Olympics. You have other obligations. You have your team obligations to the Spurs. World Cup is just not that important. You know, at the end of the day, it's just not that important. So it's just fascinating, man, with this kid because the amount of sports science, the amount, his team, as we've heard, is extensive. Their research, their preparation for him is unmatched because they got to make sure that this 7'5" kid can make it through and have a productive career. Very interesting, man.
Has there been any player in the league where reporting on their off-season training workout programs to make sure that they're in shape to play an 82-game regular season, just have a long-lasting career in the NBA? Has any of it been so documented? Because after the draft, it was, all right, now he's in the gym working out. You see all this stuff floating around on YouTube, Instagram, wherever you tend to dive in for your social media fix. I have never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
Truly never seen anything like this, where it's like this guy he's talked about as being the best prospect out there, better than LeBron James at times. Then you're like, okay, we have to make sure that we keep this guy in bubble wrap because we need him to make sure that he is, for the Spurs, the next guy who could be like a Tim Duncan, right? And lead us to multiple championships. And we have to really focus in on how his body develops. I have never seen anything like this.
Fascinating.
Never.
No.
I don't know what team has made this type of investment into anybody. It is truly something different.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it with a prospect. I mean, even with Embiid, when Embiid came in with the fractured foot,
he wasn't getting this treatment.
It wasn't getting not nearly close to this treatment, man. I'm fascinated to see how this kid plays because I'm still a skeptic, man. I just don't see it. I want to see it. I just don't see. Yes, they could manage him. They could load manage him. This, that, and the third. Like, you know, how's he going to react to an ankle sprain? He goes up, he comes down hard on an ankle sprain. You know, what happens when he runs into Jokic? What happens when he runs into Draymond Green and Draymond, doesn't gives him his welcome to the league moment? What happens when he goes up against LeBron? You saw what happened when Chet Holmgren tried to just defend the LeBron a strong layup in the Summer League Pro-Am. Out for the whole season. Tears the ligament in his foot. He's out of there.
Is the Chet Holmgren experience what the Spurs are looking at? Because
I'm sure
that was another guy came in. It's like, oh, this guy's a talent. Came from the college ranks, not international college ranks, right? And it's like he goes out and it's the frame. It's like, the injury concerns. Those were the same things too prior to him being drafted. The injury concerns because of his frame. I'm just shook. Look, man, I want to see it. I mean, at this point, I feel like you're setting the kid up to fail because it's like all this hype. And for guys like you and me, like, we'll tune in here and there. We'll see the highlights, but we can't catch a Victor Wembanyama game because when we were covering the Knicks, right? Yeah. Or you're just watching the league and just to tailor like our Knicks expectations and our coverage to what the league is talking about. Like, I'm just, they talk about him playing in Summer League, right? I think we were discussing that off stage a little bit.
No, he says he's going to play in Summer League.
How are you not going to play in FIBA World Cup and then you're going to tell me you're playing Summer League, which to me is even lesser than FIBA World Cup.
Yeah, but like that first game of Summer League there's a lot of hype, man. There's a lot of hype. That first game, I think he'll play that first game. They got the Hornets. You got Brandon Miller, number 1 pick, number 2 pick. I think they'll do it. They did it for Zion. I was there, the earthquake game and all. It was Zion versus RJ, and it was hyped. And a lot of these guys, they'll come in and they'll play just like one game, and then as the Summer League progresses, they're out of there. But I think for Wembanyama, he might just touch Vegas real quick, do one game, and then head back to San Antonio, man. Get the off-season regimen going.
All right. I'm gonna ask you this for the regular season for Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Minutes, because this guy is not playing over 30 some odd minutes per game. There's no. So I'm gonna put the over under at 27.5. Is he going to average over 27.5 minutes per game, or is it going to be under?
Well, we going to Vegas for Summer League, man. Let's see if we can put some action on that. On the minutes on Wemby, man.
I'm just making up. I don't even know if that line exists.
I'm sure it does. This
sure
is Vegas, man. You can
maybe 28, maybe 28.5 will be the right one, because I feel like that's a good amount to get experience.
Yeah.
You can't have this guy playing 25 minutes. You can't have averaging over 30 minutes either if you want to keep his body long lasting, as the Spurs are talking about.
It's going to be fascinating, man. I have to think he hovers around 30, but he will miss games. I think they will sit him out games, like back-to-backs and stuff like that. I don't even think he's going to do that.
For the chat, what is it? You got all right for the chat. I don't know if TM's here or not, but do you think Wemby's going to play over 28.5 minutes per game or under?
Over, under. Over, under, people in the chat, man. Look, it makes the most sense for the Spurs to take this thing slow, get him on the load management track early, tank it up, stink up the joint. You get back into the lottery again next year. You get another top pick. Maybe you get the Tony Parker to his Tim Duncan, or you get the Ginobili to his Tim Duncan. You get the next big wing or the next big point guard. Maybe it's the kid from Vermont. His name is skipping me. Maybe they get him. I forgot the kid's Flag. Maybe they get Flag. And you just take it slow, man. You take it slow. But nevertheless, Wemby out of there for the FIBA tournament. So there that is.
Okay. Getting some good mix of over and under.
Yep.
Yeah, Mr. TD. I'm gonna change this because I was thinking out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Had to change to more reasonable, because I feel like 27.5 is just too easy to figure it out.
Yeah.
Got to make it a little bit more challenging.
29.
Make it a little more challenging. JJ's got 29 in there.
Okay.
Got Julius Caesar for under. Got Yankees fan forever saying under. Got JJ said slightly over 29.
Mm-hmm.
Got White Lotus saying over.
Mm.
Let's see. Mr. TD said under then with the line change.
Mm. Yeah. Let's say Julius Caesar says 25 minutes for 55 games.
Mm.
Ill Minds going over. Yeah, Teddy Perkins says no one in NBA history 7-2 or greater has had a non-injury riddled career. Wemby will have his injuries, so for sure.
Justin Moore, Ill Mind saying over. Whoa. No. Justin Moore saying Wemby getting Obi minutes is crazy.
No, he's way more than Obi minutes. Way more than Obi minutes. Yeah, man. But great show, man. Action-packed show. Thanks again to John Krasinski, Timberwolves insider, for coming in and talking Wolves. We broke some news over here. Well, we reacted to the breaking news. John Collins being traded from the Atlanta Hawks to the Utah Jazz. We talked about Damian Lillard. We'll be meeting with Blazers front office to talk about the future of the franchise. I mean, what other future do you have? Like Scoot Henderson's team and a young team. We'll see what happens as the world turns. Damian Lillard edition. Remember, guys, that this show is available in audio podcast format. So if you miss it, shout out to the replay gang if you're watching on replay. But you can always catch it in audio podcast format right after the show. And keep it locked, man. Hit that like button. Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the share button. Let's continue to grow the movement, man. We've reached 2,100 subscribers on the NBA Report, man. So we're continuing to grow. We're continuing to thrive. And the free agent show will continue on Wednesday, man. We'll have Alex Hollingsworth of Lakers Central talking Lakers, and then we'll get into our top 10 bigs, power forward, centers, as we get ready for the big free agency show on Friday, June 30th at 6 p.m. Al, great job, great show. Salute to everybody in the chat, man. We'll see you guys. Peace.